Installing. Please stand by.
I've been receiving strange reports of odd
I'm sorry. Now just
Not as mounted a full counterattack.
Establishing battlefield control. Stand by. Primary objective achieved. Welcome back, Commander.
Thanks. Glad to be back, Ava. Command & Conquer Tiberian Sun is the first game in the Tiberium series to be released in 4 years. Why? Well, this game actually has an interesting story behind its development. Things weren't all sunshine and rainbows when this game was developed. Tiberian Sun began development in 1996, shortly after the release of Red Alert. Westwood decided to work on an entirely new engine that supported the tactical style of gameplay that Tiberian Sun introduced. It was originally slated for release in 1997, but the development hit some speed bumps that caused them to go behind schedule. Another company named Electronic Arts, or EA, was also interested in Westwood and developed a relationship with them. Westwood partnered with them because they were in some financial trouble, and some products didn't meet sales quotas. Despite this being the greatest undertaking Westwood has ever took, Electronic Arts, or EA, rushed the game to be released in early 1998. Why did EA rush them to release their game earlier than intended? Well... Unfortunately, Westwood missed their deadline because of development hell. Not only that, but this forced them to omit several interesting features for the game, including selecting units to use before a mission, day and night cycles, and even an entirely new faction to play with, the Forgotten. Finally, the game was released in 1999. Unfortunately, it was not exactly to thunderous applause. Gaming magazines criticized this game, calling it underwhelming, outdated, and too different from its predecessors to be properly enjoyed. But that's the reviewer's opinion. The fans loved this game. Although it wasn't their favorite, they liked the tactical edge and the dark sci-fi atmosphere that this game gave them, and it was generally accepted as a follow-up to the classic Tiberian Dawn. 11 years later, the game has aged, but people still like it more than the recent ones. Why do they? Well, let's find out. The story begins 30 years after the events of Tiberian Dawn. The entire world has turned into a death world, a place where deadly ion storms, dangerous creatures, and meteor storms are the norm. The GDI has run the first Tiberian War, and now the Brotherhood of Nod is in disarray. Nod puppet leader Hassan is continuing the Nod fracture, but a man named Anton Slavik has managed to unite the Brotherhood by overthrowing Hassan. Shortly after that, this happens. Cain lives! Yes, apparently Cain has turned from a leader of a rogue terrorist group to Jesus Christ himself, as he somehow gets resurrected from a seemingly improbable death.
You can't kill the Messiah.
At first, I was surprised too. How the hell is he able to survive being ion cannoned to bits? Nobody survives that. Nobody!
You're not God, Cain.
No, I'm not God. But I'm a close second.
Jedi General Solomon is just as shocked as I am.
What the hell is this? It's not possible.
You may notice that Solomon is played by James Earl Jones. That's right, the one and only voice of Darth Vader is in the Command & Conquer game. The only way this can get cooler is if he actually plays as Darth Vader.
It would be a sad error in judgment, General Solomon, to mistake me for a corpse.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Like the first game, you choose to play as either the Brotherhood of Nod or the Global Defense Initiative. In the GDI campaign, you play as Michael McNeil, played by Michael Bitt, or that guy from the Terminator. McNeil appears to be a budget Han Solo. You can see he tries to play as this careless anti-hero who drives a big ship, but him doing so almost always results in lines so corny that William Shatner would be stupefied at such ham.
Chandra, you son of a bitch.
Let's kick some ass.
Is
the lights are off doesn't mean nobody's home.
Alright, you sorry bastard. Before that crap fries your brain, you're gonna tell me what happened to the rest of that ship.
There's enough explosives in the mixed car to blow us back in time.
Tell me, Slavic, did your all-knowing God mention that you would die today? The name is McNeil when they ask who beat you.
I love to win.
In the Nog campaign, you play as Anton Slavic. You also get introduced to Cabal, who has the best computer voice in video game history.
Define favorable outcome, Cabal.
They all die.
He shows this HAL 9000 meets Freddy Krueger vibe, as he does function as a computer, but you can tell the genuine hatred in his voice.
Mutant vermin detected.
Although Slavic is the main character, I personally think Cabal steals the show. You can tell he doesn't like taking orders from a sycophant of Cain.
The commander may have information vital to your movement.
I like the direction the story took here. Instead of playing as this nameless commander with a bunch of talking heads giving objectives to you like some sort of brainless lackey, the cutscenes actually reveal a great deal of the story. It feels like you're watching an actual movie instead of some FMVs on the computer. Although now they may seem like a Sci-Fi Channel original movie nowadays. Remember, this was released in 1999. This was considered normal for video games back then.
I want all of the chaos emeralds! Better not interfere!
Or else what, you big loser?
Or else I'll take them from you by force! The hard way!
Of course, implying that there's an easy way to take them from you by force. Which is the hard way! Anyway, back to the story. Cain is looking to turn the entire world into a planet of Tiberium life forms, using his world-altering missile. He can do this, of course, using an alien object called the Tacitus. A good deal of the Tiberian Sun story revolves around this thing.
What is a Tacitus?
You know, McNeil, I could ask the same question. What is the Tacitus exactly?
Tacitus is the source, Slavic. Its Tiberian secrets can make or break empires.
Okay, what is it? Why is it so important?
I have the Tacitus. I am invincible.
Okay, why are you invincible? Why is the Tacitus so important anyway? What is a Tacitus?
The Tacitus is nothing but a Shiner myth.
You're not helping. You see, this is the problem with the story. They clearly hype up this Tacitus thing as some sort of game-breaking object, but they never explain its purpose, its power, or even what it looks like. You don't see what it looks like until the end of the GDI campaign, where it looks like some sort of glowing glass orb. Really? That's all I'm fighting for? A glass orb?
I hate to lose.
You know what they call an object that moves the plot forward, but doesn't seem to be anything more than a cheap prop or a seemingly powerless device? Oh, that's right, a MacGuffin. You see, the problem with MacGuffins is, as important as the plot makes it out to be, you, the viewer, generally don't care for the object in question to point. When I play through both campaigns, I ask to myself, why are they fighting for this Tacitus thing? What's the point? Sure, it seems important because the plot says so, but to me, those glass balls used by fortune tellers might as well be the Tacitus. It serves the same purpose. Despite this nitpick, I think that Tiberian Sun is the best story in the entire series. You can tell this game has a story to tell you and it urges you to sit down and let it tell it to you. And you should, it's a great story. It's not perfect, but it's enough to keep you hooked for the rest of the game. You're missing out on half the game if you skip the cutscenes. You know the drill. Build a base and destroy your opponents. There are recon missions and guerrilla missions where you command a select few to complete your objective, giving you a challenge, so to speak. The missions are varied enough for you to not feel bored when you play through them. There are different types of missions, such as those introducing new units, recon missions, base missions, and even a combination of the two. There is also a defend a base for a limited amount of time mission in the game, but there's only one and it'll only last 10 minutes. That's a good thing, because I hate those types of missions with a passion. I hate it in StarCraft and I hate it here. What I like about this game is that there are also optional missions that you can choose to complete, but don't have to. These missions benefit you for future missions, such as giving you super weapons, reinforcements, and neutralizing enemy defenses. I like it because it gives the player a choice. You can make the next mission easier by completing the optional mission, or you can challenge yourself by skipping the mission and dealing with the consequences. It also gives you a sense of accomplishment whether you receive the benefits. Rarely will you ever feel like you've completed a mission for the hell of it. The game is the most tactical of the entire series. This is one of those games that require you to think of and experiment with different strategies. Even better, each strategy has their strengths and weaknesses, so you can't spam a single type of unit and expect your enemy's base to be a gigantic crater. This not only keeps Tiberian Sun from being a tired cakewalk, but it also increases replay value. You can easily think of 50 different ways to destroy a base. There are several units to command here, including Tic Tanks, Mechs, Rocket Infantry, Bombers, Banshees, Hover Missile Launchers, Sonic Tanks, Stealth Tanks, Cyborgs, and AT-AT ripoffs with gigantic railguns. Thing is, no unit feels completely useless. I guarantee you that you're going to use each and every unit at least once. Okay, I know what you're asking. Where are the Mammoth Tanks? Well, there isn't any. That may be bad news for some, but personally, I think not having Mammoth Tanks is a good thing. Why? Well, think about it. In the early games, Mammoth Tanks were perfect for almost any application. You got a bunch of infantry, run them over with Mammoth Tanks. Vehicles, destroy them with Mammoth Tanks. Looking for a base to destroy? Mammoth Tanks. Aircraft pestering you? Mammoth Tanks. Stub the toe? Mammoth Tanks. Spilled milk? Mammoth Tanks. Burnt dinner? Mammoth Tanks. Cat scratched you? Mammoth Tanks. Girlfriend broke up with you? Mammoth Tanks. Mammoth Tanks, Mammoth Tanks, Mammoth Tanks. Let's face it, as fun as using Mammoth Tanks is, they took away from the strategy of the game. Most strategies, from playing as the GDI or the Soviets, consisted of nothing but Mammoth Tank rushes. So I applaud Westwood's gutsy move of axing this potential strategy killer, and taking a new direction with the game's tactics because it forces you to think a lot more about how to destroy a base, than just stopping with, run them over Mammoth Tanks. But don't worry, there are Mammoth Tanks in the last mission of the GDI campaign. You can't build them, but they're here. Have fun. Okay, there are strategy killers, but the reason that they're strategy killers is not because of poor balancing, but because of game glitches. For example, the not artillery. The artillery shell can deal staggering damage when it hits its target directly, but it's supposed to miss moving targets because of its sheer power. But, thanks to a strange glitch, the artillery almost always hits the target directly. That means even the most powerful units can be destroyed by just a few artillery. Combine that with the remarkable range of the artillery and you got yourself a nigh impenetrable base defense. The only saving grace is that the artillery can't destroy air units, so they're not completely invincible. Another strategy killer is the DDI Disruptor. A disruptor is a sonic tank that can fire damaging resonance rays at its target. Anything, and I mean anything, that gets caught in a wave will get consistently damaged. That means that the disruptor can destroy multiple buildings at a time. A good 5 disruptors can destroy entire bases in a matter of seconds if used right. However, even this beast has a weakness, and that is no anti-air weapons. Each side has their so-called epic unit. The GDI has a very powerful unit called the Mammoth Mark II, a follow-up to the Mammoth Tank. You can only build one at a time though. I guess this is to prevent Mammoth Mark II spamming, so nice job. This beast has 2 railguns and rocket launchers to take care of air units, but even this beast has a weakness. Their railguns have a very long recharge time, so a lot of rocket infantry or banshees can take this thing down. Or he could just summon Luke Skywalker.
Set your harpoon! Follow me on the next pass!
Nod has the Cyborg Commando, an extremely powerful unit with an extremely powerful plasma cannon. Infantry is absolutely no match for the Commando, but a crapload of Titans can turn this thing into a crater. You know, the Cyborg Commando and the Mammoth Mark II make a badass combo. Another thing is the environment in this game. The environment will not make it easy for you. Ion storms and current random can hinder your performance. Did I mention that ion storm bolts are dangerous? There are also some Tiberian life forms that aren't pushovers like in other games. They're hostile, hard to kill, and can even destroy entire bases. You'll learn to hate them the further you play this game.
These critters don't look too friendly.
There is a skirmish mode, and they definitely improved upon it. You can select the toughness of the AI, the amount of units you get, the amount of money you have, and even the game speed upon start. Playing skirmish mode gives you a challenge, and you don't have to worry about not being challenged, because the AI can get absolutely brutal at times. The gameplay is kept nice and fresh thanks to a large list of varied units and strategies to experiment with, although it does take some time to get used to. It takes time to know what each unit does and how to use them properly, and it can turn off some newcomers. Everything seems improved though, even the AI seems more devious than before. I wish I could say the same about the aircraft AI though. You can set waypoints for your units to follow, removing a lot of needless clicking. You can also customize your keys. That is a great thing to have in an RTS, because different people have different playing styles, and confining all of them into one default setting is never a good plan. The graphics? Well, the game seems dull and lifeless at first, but that seems to be the point. I mean, I don't know of any apocalyptic wastelands with beautiful flowers, lush gardens, and sparkling lakes. So I think they pulled up this whole world ruined by Tiberium vibe almost perfectly here. The graphics are nice and detailed, but once again, the infantry looks cartoonish. It really feels out of place for a game of the series such that... Did that Banshee seriously say whoops? Huh. I guess even serious games like this can get a laugh out of you at times. The game looks amazing for a game made in 1999. They fit perfectly with their pseudo 3D isometric engine. The game doesn't skip on the special effects either. These visual effects were amazing for their time. The game is also the first to have light. This gives the game atmosphere and it also immerses you into the action. The game also has tiny little details that I appreciate. Vehicles spark and smoke when damaged, terrain itself can get cleared in intense situations, and debris flies everywhere and vehicles and buildings get destroyed. The sound? Well, to be honest, the explosion sounds don't sound as intense as their predecessors, which is disappointing. I replaced the sounds in this game with better sounds, so you get to experience what could have been. Most explosions sound the same, making tough battles sound pretty repetitive. The rest of the game sounds good though, barring some voice acting that sounds totally out of place.
We have been touched by the spirit hand of Cain, and are ready to serve the technology of peace. Peace through power.
Again, like the rest of the game, the music takes some time to get used to. A good percentage of this game is ambient new age sci-fi music. It doesn't have any rock music or orchestral music from the past games. However, the more you listen to it, the more you start to like it. It fits in with the atmosphere that the game creates, and no track sounds out of place, whereas it would sound out of place in any other game. I won't say that this is the best music in the entire series, but I will say that this is the best music that Tiberian Sun can get. Tiberian Sun isn't considered the best game in the series, and I can see why people wouldn't like this game. I initially felt the same when I played this game for the first time. The dull graphics, the bland music, and the general hopelessness of it all. However, strangely, the more I played this game, the more I appreciate the work put into it. It's not an acquired taste like caviar, beer, or soccer, but something that gets better the more you play it, like Raisins, Baseball, or Final Fantasy VII. You shouldn't expect to like this game the moment you play it, but if you don't give this game a chance, you're missing out on a great game with a great story. Now, does this signify the end of the Command & Conquer series by Westwood? Not exactly. We still have yet to take a look at what they call Westwood Studios' magnum opus. A game that I thought was amazing then, and I still think is amazing now.